Hey guys, welcome back to Based MMA. Based MMA is finally back. I know I haven't posted a video in almost 6 days and I already see my subscriber count going down. But don't you worry, I'm back with another video. I'm back with a double Whopper prediction video for UFC 302. So I'm going to be breaking down Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa. And I'm also going to be breaking down in this same video Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. And before I start talking about Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa, I just want to say that I feel like there's going to be a crazy upset on this card. I feel like when we go into a card and it's a little bit too clean, there's too many clean favorites where, okay, Islam is a clear favorite, Sean Strickland is a clear favorite. I just feel like we're kind of due for an upset. And I could definitely see that happening going into this card. And the last time that I felt this way was when we went into that Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland fight, where the obvious logical pick was Israel Adesanya beating Sean Strickland, and Sean Strickland didn't even deserve that title shot against Israel Adesanya. It's kind of a similar dynamic here where Dustin Poirier is the only guy ready to fight Islam Makhachev, and I just feel like it's a little bit dangerous where we could see an upset. And maybe as I break down these fights, maybe I'll make a wild pick, man. At this point, I don't really care about my prediction rate. I only care about the analysis, which is why you're here. So the first fight I'm going to break down is Sean Strickland versus Paulo Costa. And if you guys have been watching my channel for any time now, for about a year, you know that I've been shitting on Paulo Costa for the longest time. I said his power is overrated. You know, he's not that good. People think that he punches hard just because he's a bodybuilder. You know, he's overrated, overhyped. He's actually not that funny online. So if you've been watching my channel, you know that I'm not like the biggest Paulo Costa fan. However, I do kind of owe him an apology because I've slowly started to become a fan of Paulo Costa. And I was actually pretty surprised by his performance against Robert Whittaker, where he looked hungry, man. It looked like a Paulo Costa that wanted to go out there and prove a point. You know, he didn't break. And I like Paulo Costa. I think he's a very fun fighter. Do I like the fact that he's been ducking fights and he's been pulling out of fights? Or maybe I know that the UFC is also to blame for announcing fights that haven't really been signed. So I know that not all of the blame is on Paulo Costa. However, I just haven't been happy that he's been inactive. I haven't liked that he's changed his attitude after losing to Israel Adesanya prior to fighting Israel Adesanya when he fought Yoel Romero, when he was coming up, when he was on that 13-0 win streak. Paulo Costa was just a very different fighter. You could tell that he was really hungry to become a champion, and I kind of feel like that Paulo Costa is back. And on the other hand, Sean Strickland is coming into this fight feeling a little bit robbed, right? Because that decision against Dricus du Plessis was very close. You would think that the UFC or the judges would at least give the decision to the champion, especially when the fight is very close. But we know that judging in the UFC is very, very inconsistent. So I'm not surprised that Sean Strickland did not get the decision. And the more I've rewatched Dricus versus Strickland, I kind of see the argument for DDP, guys. Sean Strickland, yes, he has an amazing jab, very defensively sound, great cardio, but he doesn't have the best volume. And because he doesn't also have a lot of power, because his striking is kind of ugly, I just feel like his style lends himself to lose against guys like Dricus du Plessis, against guys like Jared Cannonier, who have a little bit more power. And because Sean Strickland is very low output, I could see why he lost that fight against Dricus du Plessis, who was throwing a lot more. Maybe he wasn't landing as much damage, but Sean Strickland, I feel like he had more success in that fight in those early rounds with the jab, with the right hand. He was very composed, and I felt like as the fight went on, Dricus started to get his timing. He started to get his, I guess, his rhythm, his volume, and that's where Sean Strickland started to slow down. So there's definitely a path here. However, this fight is a very different dynamic. I know that Paulo Costa is kind of a bodybuilder and he kind of has a similar build to Dricus du Plessis, but the fight is not the same, guys, because Paulo Costa doesn't have as much power as Dricus. He doesn't have the grappling of Dricus. So this is a wish version of Dricus du Plessis. Paulo Costa is a wish version of Dricus du Plessis. And Sean Strickland, in my opinion, He's better than he's ever been before. I feel like Sean Strickland is coming into his prime. I think he's a lot more confident now that he beat Israel Adesanya, that he had a very competitive fight against Dricus du Plessis. I thought he put his best performance against Dricus. It's just that Dricus, he was very hungry for the title. He started to push it in those later rounds. I still feel that the fight could have gone to Sean Strickland. I'm not too mad about the decision because it was a very, very close fight. So the reason I bring that up is because I feel like that might play a factor for Sean Strickland going into this fight, just seeing that the UFC has pretty much thrown him to the side because Sean Strickland, this is not a number one contender fight. If Sean Strickland wins this fight, he's not getting a title shot. The person who's going to get a title shot after Dricus and Adesanya is going to be Robert Whittaker versus Hamza Chimaev. So I feel like the UFC is just kind of putting this fight just as a fun fight, and I don't know if that's rubbing Sean Strickland the wrong way. And I don't know if because of that, he goes into this fight not as hungry anymore because he knows that he kind of has already been done dirty by the UFC. So that's definitely something to consider, which is why I could see Paulo Costa pulling an upset. However, I am going to be picking Sean Strickland to win this fight. I just think he has an advantage in the cardio. His jab, those straight punches. Paulo Costa throws a lot of hooks. He throws amazing body kicks. I think that's where Paulo Costa is very dangerous, with those leg kicks, with those head kicks, with those spinning wheel kicks. That's where Paulo Costa is very dangerous. But Paulo Costa tends to start to slow down as the fight goes on. And this is a 5-round fight. And we've never seen Paulo Costa go 5 rounds in a fight. Actually, I'm mistaken. He has gone 5 rounds. He went 5 rounds against Marvin Vettori, but that was a higher weight class where Paulo Costa did not have to cut weight. So maybe that played a factor against Marvin Vettori. But I think Sean Strickland is just a way better striker than Marvin Vettori. He has way better cardio. He has a solid jab. And I just feel like Sean does have a style that could be kind of bad for Paulo Costa, which is that solid jab, right hand, very defensively sound, tall as well, lengthy kind of style. I think it's going to give Paulo Costa a lot of problems, which is why I'm going to go with Sean Strickland. But a little part of me wants to pick Paulo Costa. If you guys don't remember, I picked Paulo Costa to be Robert Whittaker. And I almost had that. He almost knocked out Robert Whittaker in that first round. But I realized that I just feel like Paulo Costa is not going to be able to finish any of these top middleweights. I really don't feel like he can. And maybe he could catch Sean Strickland with something fluky, a head kick, maybe with a hook that Sean Strickland doesn't see coming. I could see that happening. I just feel like right now, Sean Strickland is in his prime. He's way too defensively sound. His striking has improved a lot. And if this fight was a 3-round fight, I might pick Paulo Costa. But because the fight is 5 rounds, I think I just have to go with Sean Strickland because of his cardio, his striking, the fact that he's in his prime. But I am a little bit concerned about his mindset going into this fight. But you never know, man. I hope this fight is fun. It's probably going to be a very fun fight. I mean, Sean Strickland doesn't have like the most fun fighting style, but Paulo Costa does have a fun style, and I think he'll bring that out of Sean Strickland. Ultimately, I think this is going to be a very fun fight. I actually think it's going to be competitive in moments. I think Paulo Costa is going to be very explosive early on. I think he's going to be landing hooks. He's going to be landing body kicks. Sean Strickland is going to be very defensively sound, and then as the fight goes on, he'll start to land his jab, his right hand, and I think he'll win by a decision. I don't really see him finishing Paulo Costa unless Paulo Costa just gets very, very tired. I also don't see Paulo Costa attempting any takedowns. Sean Strickland has pretty amazing takedown defense. We saw that against Dricus du Plessis. We saw that against Imavov. So I don't see that being a factor going into this fight. So ultimately, guys, I just have to go with Sean Strickland. It is a 5-round fight, which benefits him a lot. If this fight was 3 rounds, I don't mind picking Paulo Costa. I'm going to be honest. I might pick Paulo Costa, but because it's 5 rounds, I just have to go with Sean Strickland, who's very reliable, who's coming into his own, who has a great coach. Eric Nixon is a great coach, and they're going to go into this fight with a great game plan. And even though Paulo Costa, I do believe that he's kind of regained that hunger, I just don't think it's going to be enough to beat Sean Strickland. Now for the main event, we got Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. And yes, on paper, this should be a very easy win for Islam Makhachev because Dustin Poirier doesn't have the best takedown defense, doesn't have the best fight IQ, especially when he jumps the ghillie. I get it. It's fun. Dustin Poirier's a fun fighter. He's a very likable guy. But, man, jumping the ghillie, At this point in your career, I get it. It's Benoit Saint-Denis who wasn't as experienced, but if you try that shit against Khabib Nurmagomedov, against an Islam Makhachev, it ain't gonna work out for you, Dustin. So I really advise you not to go for the gilly. I get it. It's fun and games. And you got lucky last time that Benoit had staph infection and basically had no boxing defense and basically was asking to get knocked out on the feet. But Islam Makhachev is a very different animal. And yes, I do think Dustin Poirier could potentially knock out Islam Makhachev. If Islam gets a little bit too confident with his hands, if he's gotten in love with his striking, there is a chance that Dustin could catch him. However, I just don't think that's the case. I think Islam Makhachev, the fact that he has Khabib Nurmagomedov in his corner, I think they're going to keep him very humble. I think they're not underestimating Dustin Poirier going into this fight. I know that Islam is downplaying Dustin Poirier's skills and stuff like that and kind of has a bit of that trash talk. But I think that's mostly to sell the fight. I really do believe that. I think he's going to respect him on the feet. I don't see him brawling against Poirier. I really don't see that happening. And because of that, I just think that it's going to be a very clean fight for Islam Makhachev. There is a part of me that hopes that the fight is a little bit more competitive, that, you know, Dustin maybe catches Islam Makhachev, stuns him for a little bit, and we're like, what the hell just happened? Islam shoots for a panic takedown. You know, maybe Dustin stuffs it, or maybe he gets taken down at the end of the round, but Dustin, you know, he just gained his confidence because he just rocked Islam Makhachev. I could see that happening in this fight, but I just think Islam is too defensively sound. I think his striking has improved a lot, and I think at range, he could give Dustin problems on the feet with those head kicks, with those body kicks. They're both southpaws. You know, I don't see Islam boxing too much with Dustin. Maybe he entertains it for a little bit. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think this fight is going to be a little bit boring at the beginning. I see Islam kind of pressuring Dustin. Dustin waiting to see what Islam is going to do, if he's going to shoot for a takedown. And I see Dustin getting pressured up against the fence. And then Islam level changing, taking him down, controlling him on the ground. You know, maybe Dustin survives a round. You know, maybe he has moments here and there, but I just think Islam Makhachev is going to win this fight, man. I mean, anything could happen. It's MMA. You know, Dustin definitely has the power. I don't think Islam Makhachev has like the greatest chin. He has an average chin, and also because Islam is so defensively sound, because he doesn't get hit clean too often, maybe that kind of works to his detriment when it comes to his durability. And if Dustin's able to land something clean on Islam, you know, Islam could get hurt and Dustin's gonna get on top of him. Because also Dustin, guys, he's gonna be very dangerous in this fight because he knows this is his last opportunity. This is his last shot at the title. So why not just go all out, man? I think Dustin's going to be taking a lot of risk against Islam Makhachev. I think Islam is going to be very defensive. I think he's going to be very patient. I don't think he's going to go out there and just try to submit Dustin Poirier right away or try to knock him out right away. I think he's going to see how Dustin feels, and then he's going to start to break him down. So I think this fight is going to go into the third, second round. I mean, I think it's going to go into the third round. I see Islam Makhachev winning. But man, I am a little bit worried, man. I am a little bit worried that perhaps, you know, he could get caught. I just don't think so. I just don't think so. And I cannot logically pick Dustin Poirier to win the fight. I know that it's kind of a little bit of a meme that Dustin's going to catch Islam Makhachev, that he's going to catch him with the gilly. And I also think that Dustin is not in his prime. I was just rewatching that Chandler fight, and he looked a lot slower on the feet. And then I watched his fight with Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Dustin looked a lot faster with his striking. I was watching the McGregor rematch, and I just think that Dustin has slowed down a little bit. I mean, he's not washed necessarily. I mean, he's 35 years old, but I don't think he's washed. But I don't think his striking is as crisp and as fast as it used to be. And now he's fighting Islam Makhachev, who's in his prime, and he's not. And also, he's only on a one-fight win streak. Like, I just think that there's way too many reasons for me to pick Islam Makhachev going into this fight. So I'm going to pick Islam Makhachev to defeat Dustin Poirier. So as much as I want to pick an underdog in these matchups, I just don't see it happening, guys. I just don't see Poirier winning. I could see Costa maybe catching Sean Strickland, but I just can't depend on that when Costa doesn't have a lot of power. When it's a 5-round fight, we've seen Costa slow down in pretty much every single one of his fights. So I really can't pick Costa. I really can't pick Poirier going into this fight. Look, he's not even on a win streak. He's coming off a win over a Benoit Saint-Denis, who's going into the fight with staph infection, who doesn't have great defense, and basically was asking to get knocked out on the feet. And yes, Benoit Saint-Denis is still a very good fighter, don't get me wrong, but he made a lot of mistakes. He gassed out very quickly against Dustin. We really did not expect that. Yes, did I think that Dustin was a better boxer in that fight? Of course I did. Of course I knew that Dustin was going to be the better striker, but I just thought that Benoit was going to have better cardio, and because his cardio was so bad, I think that really affected his durability in that fight. So I have to go with Islam Makhachev to beat Dustin Poirier. I'm a little bit, hesitant to say the method. I mean, I could see a knockout, I could see a submission. A little part of me is saying that this fight is going to go to a decision. I could see Islam Makhachev winning a decision. I definitely think that Dustin could have moments, man. I mean, Dustin has great boxing. He has okay kicks. He has okay kicks. And if Islam Makhachev, maybe he closes the distance, not good enough, and Dustin Poirier lands a hook, I could definitely see him hurting Islam Makhachev because, like I said, Islam Makhachev is so defensively sound that because of that, he doesn't take a lot of punishment. And because of that, I don't think he has the greatest chance. So when he does get hit clean, like Volkanovski did in that first fight, we saw Islam, kind of stumble backwards, kind of get stunned a little bit. So Dustin definitely has a chance here. He definitely has. But when I look at all the factors, I just really cannot pick him. I think Islam Makhachev is going into this fight very humble. I think the team is going to keep him very humble. They're not underestimating Dustin Poirier, and I really do believe that Islam Makhachev wants to reach greatness. But let me know what you guys think down below, who you're picking. I'm pretty sure most of you guys are picking Islam Makhachev and Sean Strickland. That's going to be my parlay. If something crazy happens, well, it is MMA, and maybe MMA gods want Dustin Poirier to win that belt.